This is GIMI Productions on the track.
What's up, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and we are the Political Junkies, and we're going to get this party started. This is our second episode. We're here doing politics. We're having fun. And the first topic we're going to discuss is the lady, Elizabeth Warren. So on a scale of Biden to Bernie, with Bernie being a 10 and Biden being a 1, how progressive is Elizabeth Warren?
I'm going to just say it. Liz is about an 8 or a 9 on the progressive scale. I'll stand by that.
This is how we're starting it up.
Right, we got to throw hands at some point, Gabe. That's why we're here.
Hey, she's a 5. She's a 5. I mean, she's now Mitch McConnell level, and not even Biden. So Biden being a 1, Bernie a 10, I'll give her a 5 because she is not moderate. I would say I think she's more malleable, pliable. She's a, I don't want to sound too bad, she's a little bit of an opportunist. I think she's as progressive as she has to be to get elected or to get, the job done right now. So I think she's one of those candidates that we could push to be more progressive, or the establishment could push her to be more moderate. So that's why I put her in the middle.
The 2016 Elizabeth Warren, we could go with a 7-8. 2020 Elizabeth Warren, we're talking about 3 or 4. Like, she's definitely, her progressive cars is long gone. She played it off, and she showed her true self in 2020. So definitely not an 8.
I mean, maybe in her heart she's an 8, but when you look at the facts, when you look at I'm going to be the furthest. I'm going to say she's a 4 on the scale, and I have points to say why. I'm not just going to just throw it out there. And so I prefer the person that's honest with me about what they feel. And if you're going to stab me from the front, don't stab me from the back. And Warren is someone who her only political belief is what's going to get her ahead. And here's why. We're going to go back to 2016. And for those who remember that race, Hillary had barely squeaked by in Iowa. She lost, and then what happens? What's the state coming up? Massachusetts is coming up. Bernie within striking distance. She's a progressive. Hillary, who is the woman who Elizabeth Warren railed against previously during her fights, talking about the bankruptcy bill and things like that, chose to stay neutral in a state where it was decided by, I believe it was a point or less. It started back then where she just said, I'm going to calculate and try to play both sides. For those of you people who have seen Hamilton, there's a famous line that has stood with me since that, which is, if you stand for nothing, Burr, what will you fall for? And they were talking about Aaron Burr, that he was trying to play both sides. Mm-hmm. And that has been Warren since 2016, at least, all the way until now. When they were before the Black Lives Matter protests, there was the Dakota Access Pipeline, where you had indigenous people trying to protect their lands from a pipeline going through. And who was out there? Several politicians went out there. Tulsi Gabbard went out there. And who missed? Native American 1.0001% Warren, who got ahead through her whole career off of her Native American heritage, silent on the issue, didn't go out there, wasn't on the ground with the people. Medicare for All, she's for, she's against it, she's for, she's against it, she's for. Half, but maybe in 5 years we're gonna do Medicare for All. So, and then in 2016, 2020, she takes it to another level. Now she's gonna call Bernie a misogynist that said that a woman couldn't be president, when he backed her and wanted her to go in 2016 to be the candidate to run against Hillary Clinton. He said, I want you to run. I'm backing you. I'm trying to draft her to run. And now in 2020, he's going to say that she couldn't do it. So she's a snake. There's no other way to say it. I prefer
come on. Here we go.
Her heart, she's a progressive, but if you're gonna try to play both sides, it's at that point, I prefer somebody who's gonna stand for what they believe in.
Yeah, I wouldn't go. I think that whole snake out. It's not. It's funny a point, but it's not really. What it is. She really thought that Biden was gonna make her the VP. She really thought she had a chance, and then she just sold herself. Then they said, "Oh, we're gonna probably give you the Treasury Secretary." And she's gonna realize she's not getting anything in return, and now she's lost. She lost her own state. So she may not even win it again. Who knows? So political
In
ambition.
gambling, there's a term for people like her. That's a mush. That's when somebody makes all the bad bets and they're bad luck, and she's betting that Hillary was gonna make her VP or put her something. She lost that bet because Hillary lost. She bet.
All right, Gabe.
Biden now.
I'm going to stab you from the front right now, then, because you know it's a little extra. You know, like I agree with you, but calling her a snake is a little extra. So, and then you bringing up Tulsi that you cape for. You know that maybe she might not be a snake. She's a little salamander then, or something, a chameleon. I don't know, because her herself kind of, draw her progressive mantle at the end, not going all in for Bernie at the end of the election, when everybody else was dropping out, she didn't stand up for Bernie. When everybody else,
okay, you talk about Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, Tulsi. Yeah. So I mean, if you're gonna bring her up, you brought her name up, so I had to say a little something.
All right, I want to move on from this topic. I think we
let me defend Tulsi.
Wait, hold on. Let me defend Liz here from Gabe, because I was letting him finish before coming in.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. So first of all, on the Medicare for All flip, once again, Tulsi Gabbard, she acts that completely. She, right from the get-go, like, she decided, oh, my numbers are bad, I'm out. And she's flip-flopping more than a plan that says, in the beginning, we will do a public option that transitions into Medicare for All. The end goal still being Medicare for All, even if it is years away, because Medicare for All is more than likely not going to pass within the next 3 years. Especially if you side with Bernie Sanders, who doesn't believe in getting rid of the filibuster. On top of that, moving on to the other point,
I
not
think
endorsing Bernie.
I think he changed his opinion on that. At first he was against changing the filibuster, but I believe he came around to it. I could be wrong. I have to double check that, but I believe so.
The last thing I read about it was he believes in a talking filibuster, which is kind of antiquated and really doesn't change the filibuster in the end. But Elizabeth Warren is actually for getting rid of it completely.
Actually, if it was just a talking filibuster, I think that would work, because there's no way somebody could filibuster for like a week. And the way they filibuster now is they threaten to filibuster, and then that they consider that a filibuster, and everybody just, don't let it pass. When if you did a talking filibuster, you can actually, you can filibuster talk all you want, but at some point you're going to have to stop. So I prefer a talking filibuster over the way they do it right now.
I mean, I'd prefer just getting rid of the filibuster in general.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, progressive policy is not going to happen when you need 60 votes to get anything done.
Yeah.
And just at that point, it's not really something.
And
that
also,
means
one quick point, and then I'm going to let Gabe go, is that Obamacare was passed under reconciliation. And I think we could pass Medicare for All under reconciliation, because Medicare for All is already a program that exists right now. So it's not like you have to start from fresh. Go. Okay, you want to say something to what I just said?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, go ahead real quick, and then I'm going to let Gabe go, and then we got to move on.
Elizabeth Warren's plan is actually going to be passed as a tax bill, meaning that it would only require 50 votes to pass, but it's something that Medicare for All wouldn't. All right, go on.
Elizabeth Warren doesn't have a plan.
Okay, Gabe, go ahead.
Bernie has also said that his bill will pass through budget reconciliation. So,
all right. Let's move on from this topic. I just wanted to play
Tulsi's honor.
All right, go ahead. Defend Tulsi's honor.
You're letting people lie on Tulsi's name. All right, couple things. One, she stood in the race, so that's the thing, is that she didn't go jump in again for Bernie, because she was in the race, trying to get into the last debate so that she could at least make a point, maybe make a splash, and maybe hit another kill shot, because she already took out two candidates. She took out Kamala, and she took out, what's his other name that we don't even remember because he was so unimportant. But she was trying to get into that last debate to see if she could get another kill shot. So she just stood in until coronavirus hit, and then she dropped gracefully. That's one thing. Two, it's a half truth to say she's not for Medicare for All. While she might not be for that policy in name, she's come out in favor of being in favor of a Australian universal healthcare style system. So you could Google that and see what that is, which is very, 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 at that point, you're splitting hairs between Medicare for All and not. So she is for universal healthcare and for all of the major progressive policies, most notably being the most anti-war of all of the Democrats.
No. Stop right there.
See, that's
No,
why you went too far. That was
No,
you went too
yeah.
far.
service person.
No,
Your defense for Tulsi is the same as Felipe for Warren. They have no merit.
I at least have more information than she's
Carlito.
pretty and I like her.
Listen, Tulsi is not anti-war at all. Okay, we seen she's anti troops dying, but she troops dying. Excuse me, but we seen how she was okay with some of the drone strikes. You know, so it's not really she's anti-war. She's anti maybe some imperialism, but she's not anti-war at all. You know, she doesn't want the troops to die, but she was okay with some of the drone strikes.
No, and on the debate stage, she specifically said, "I'm not against war. I'm against regime change wars," which is really a weird bone to pick when you could just say, "Bring the troops home" or something of that merit. Versus, I don't like these handful of wars.
So the last episode I teased to you guys the hidden case of the fallen Justice Democrat, and I wonder if you guys thought I was talking about any of the current Justice Democrats. No, I'm talking about Congressman Colin Allred. Here is the hidden case of the fallen Justice Democrat. On November 21st, 2017, Cenk Uygur made the announcement revealing the latest batch of people running as Justice Democrats, including Colin Allred. He ran in Texas in the 32nd District. He ran on Medicare For All, as he stated in this video with Emma Biglin.
We have to get to universal coverage, and that's why I come out for Medicare For All.
And also look at this tweet from January 27, 2018. I found an old Facebook post with a link to his Medicare For All page, which is now down when you click on it. By February 12, 2019, after being elected, he was featured in an article about candidates who got cold feet on Medicare For All. Quote, a small but troubling number of Democratic candidates who won election by running on a Medicare For All pledge are also getting cold feet on the issue. Freshman Democratic U.S. Representative Katie Hill of California, Susan Wiles of Pennsylvania, and Colin Allred of Texas, to name a few, have adopted the same approach as Rhoda. Colin Allred also joined the New Democratic Caucus, a centrist coalition of Democrats, which is the opposite of the Progressive Caucus. Allred had previously worked for Castro at HUD and considered him a friend. Then 10 days after Castro dropped out of the race, Allred endorsed Biden. Allred addressed the group of Biden supporters in Dallas just a few hours before Senator Bernie Sanders was declared the winner of the Nevada caucuses, putting the Vermont Independent one step closer to winning the Democratic nomination. Allred declined to answer directly whether he would support Sanders if he becomes the party's standard bearer. I want to make Joe Biden the nominee, and that's what I'm working to do. I'm not sure when Colin Allred officially departed from Justice Democrats. It is speculated they parted ways because of Cenk's blog scandal. This was a situation where old blog posts long deleted were digged up and caused Cenk to resign from Justice Democrats. But Cenk resigned December 22nd, 2017, while Colin did the interview with Emma January 27th, 2018, about a month later. So the question is, how can progressives tell the difference between fake progressives and the real deal?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to do it. The best we can do is once they come into office, hold them accountable. And to me, that includes primarying people. I mean, the biggest example of somebody that bamboozled the country into being progressive, to me, is Barack Obama. So, you know, there's nothing we can do about it once they get into office, other than hold them accountable, push them, and primary them if necessary. But that means having a strong organization, other Democrats putting out bills that they're going to put their votes in writing to show, like, okay, show me where you stand now. You were talking a good game before. Now that you in, now show me with your votes. And then we see from there.
Same page as Carlos, but the one thing I had to add is that we have to look at what are the mistakes that these folks are making. You know, you look at somebody like Colin in this case, and he flipped the red district. He turned it blue on a progressive campaign, on Medicare For All. And then you get into power, and then you flip, and it's like then you're probably going to lose to a Republican again, because now the people that voted you in are going to be like, oh, well, this guy's just a regular politician. He ran for this and then he did it, so we're going to vote somebody else in. Similar thing happened to Andrew Gillum in Florida, which if he didn't win, He won a historic victory in the primary where polls had him as much as I think it was 20 points behind, and he came back and won the primary on the night of on a platform of Medicare for All. And then you put him on the stage against the Republican Ron DeSantis, and they ask him if he's if he's for Medicare for All, and he says he won't answer. He dances around the question. He does everything except say he's for Medicare for All. And I don't want to say that caused his decline, but there's a definite correlation between the first debate and the multiple debates and his decline in the polls, because he was cruising. He looked, all signs pointed to him winning. And after those debates, he cratered. It just shows that people are hungry for things like Medicare for All, which are plans that are economically feasible, and they save money and they provide better care. People want them, whether the Democrat, Republican, or independent. Is a policy that has way over 50% of all voters, and I believe almost 90 to 95% of Democrat voters. You can fact check me on that. But then you get into power and you back stuff that doesn't have backing. So it's a shame. There's always going to be people like this, and hopefully these failures show. Hopefully Colin gets voted out and replaced by a strong progressive that actually is going to be for those things. So while we can't prevent it, we can definitely do what Carlos said and fight back.
All right, so let me jump in here real quick. I think that one thing that we can do to just keep in mind, or to have at least a Bernie side eye on the person, Colin, he was in the Obama administration and he actually worked under HUD. So initially he endorsed Julian Castro for president because that was his boss before. And then now recently he endorsed Biden, of course. But I think if we look at their past, and I'm not saying that all people who are in the Obama administration is not going to be a progressive. I'm saying you give them that Bernie side eye. And then the other thing is, if I was a Justice Democrat vetter, looking at the people who are recruits, I would really want them to articulate the policy. So if you say you're for Medicare for All, why are you for Medicare for All? And I want to hear them articulate, it's going to be cheaper, it's going to cover everybody, it's going to be, all the details in depth, so that I would believe you a lot more. Because if you change your policy and you knew that much information about Medicare for All, and then you go in the office and you really do a 180, then that's the total snake move.
And one other red flag I would say to watch out for here is, I mean, if you look at his campaign source, his campaign finance sourcing, I mean, it's right away, if you look at it, over 90% of his campaign financing is large individual contributions and PAC contributions.
Exactly.
Compared to the small individual contributions. So you could talk all the talk you want, but if you see where your money's coming, if we see where your money's coming from, and I mean, right away, you can tell that this is not a progressive, source of financing. He's obviously going to be beholden to the people who are giving him the money. So that's a huge red flag. I don't care what you say. If you're taking your money from big sources like these, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to flop at some point to basically pander to your donors.
Especially if you're a first time candidate. Like if you running for the very first time and you're getting so much money from big donors, from corporate PACs. I mean, my question is like, who do you know? Who's hooking you up with all this money? AOC ran and she had a ton of support from grassroots supporters. From small donations under $200 is considered a small donation, and that was the majority of her support.
I think we just, as a movement, we have to put in the same amount of energy that we put in to get someone elected, to get someone out of office, right? We have to. I think the problem the progressive movement have is that we always want to be the nice guys. We always want to play nice. Like, no, you're going to come in, you're going to run as a progressive, but if you screw us, we're going to take you out. We're going to put the same energy to bring somebody in and take you out. And you're not just going to be a career politician because you ran on our platform. You used our folks, you used our money, and then you go in there and you flip. So we just have to be very clear about every candidate that come through that platform. You screw us, we're going to fight with hell to get you out of office.
All right, the next segment. Who was a candidate who lost that you wish would have won?
My man, Charles Booker. When Charles lost, man, I feel like November of 2016, man. I felt very disappointed. Yeah. I think, he was a great candidate. I started to learn about him when he first, started running in the race, then he picked up and he got national attention, so I kept looking at that race. Obviously we know establishment got behind Amy from day one. They pump all that money in. And again, like the progressive movement came in late, AOC, Bernie, even Elizabeth. You know, I don't understand why we always wait for a candidate to pick up some national attention for us to endorse. So I was very disappointed, but I'm actually excited for the future for him. I think he has, someone that going to continue to fight. And I think he has a really good platform for Kentucky. And if we wasn't in COVID, I would have probably traveled to Kentucky to volunteer for the campaign. So I was there. I wish he would have won.
Nice. Izzy.
Yeah, I have to go with Samelis Lopez. I mean, we had a chance here, given the fact that Elliot Engel basically felt like a rock. We already have AOC in place. We had a chance in the Bronx, at least, to show the world that, we are one of the most progressive counties in the whole country, because every House congressional district would have been run by a progressive if she would have won her race. So that was devastating. I think we had a chance to make a real statement there. I mean, obviously, we have 2 out of 3 of our districts who are now, held by progressives, which is amazing. I think we are still sending a message, but that would have been the, 3 for 3. I mean, that would have been amazing. That would have really shown New York, the state, the city, and the rest of the country that we are super progressive as a county.
Awesome. Carlito.
For me, one of the guys that I really like is Alan Grayson. He came into the stage as a unapologetic progressive, and he made a lot of waves one time when fighting for Obamacare, and he said the Republican plan, which it was none, so he said is to not get sick, but if you do get sick, then die quickly, and that caused an uproar.
Oh yeah.
And the part that I was most upset about him losing, it's not just that he lost, is that the Democrats establishment like to talk about protecting your people, but they basically, when he was running for Senate to take on Marco Rubio, they endorsed a guy that used to be a Republican and then changed to Democrat, in Patrick Murphy. And most of the money that he got when he was running, it was from like his dad. His dad put like $500,000 into his own campaign, another $1 million into Democratic coffers, and that's what got him in there. It was a guy with a lot of money, and they pushed him to defeat Alan Grayson, and then he went on to lose to Marco Rubio anyway.
Yeah.
So if he would have been in there, he would have had a better chance, I think. But we were shooting ourselves in the foot because, the Democrats, they just rather lose to a Republican than to win on a really progressive platform.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Alan Grayson was that I believe, if I remember correctly, he kind of take over Bernie's spot in the House as far as being able to have a record amount of amendments. And he was able to, they said that about Bernie, he was the amendment king. And Alan Grayson had that about himself, which unfortunately, though, for him, he was never a media darling. When he did that stunt that you just talked about, it was really looked down upon. It really looked like, in Congress, you got to have a lot of, dignity and respect for your colleagues. While when he did that, he didn't get a lot of positive press. It's like the anti-AOC. Like AOC could do no wrong, and Alan Grayson could do all the wrong. So unfortunately, he didn't have that going for him.
Right. So this is the part where we also shoot ourselves in the foot, because when that happened, they compared him to I forgot his first name, Wilson, the guy that during the State of the Union, he told to Obama, "You lie."
Okay.
So they compare him to him in that way. But the thing with Wilson was that the Republicans embraced him. He fundraised a ton of money over that. Meanwhile, we want to be goody two shoes and not support our people when he's not even lying. He wasn't even lying.
Yeah.
But it wasn't completely full of decorum and grace. So we have to, throw him under the bus. So that's upsetting.
Exactly. So the person that I would have loved to see run is Brent Welder. So I'm cheating a little bit. He didn't run in 2020. He ran in 2018 as a Justice Democrat. And I thought he did an excellent job back then. Well, what impressed me more and why I'm bringing him up right now is just recently we had the DNC platform convention or committee where they were voting on different motions, and he voted or tried to put on the table to not to ban corporate super PACs donations.
We need to neutralize corporate influence, first within our party, that is preventing us from living up to our platform, our ideals, and being a true party of the people. The party of the people cannot put profits ahead of people and remain the party of the people.
And he got a lot of pushback from the Biden delegates who they ended up tabling the motion. And I got to give a shout out to Status Q, Jordan Sheridan, who brought this to my attention because I didn't watch the whole convention, but he definitely had a clip on this. And the way he did it made me so proud. And you could definitely tell that he is a true progressive. He's a true guy. And I really wish he would have ran in 2020 so he could continue to build his brand. But I hope that he jumps back in the race at some points and jumps back into the fight because he would be a good candidate. All right, Gabe.
And Case, just to add on to that, with the Brent Welder race, he ended up losing to a corporate establishment back candidate that to this day has proven not to be progressive. So that's just sat there.
Not at all. I gotta say, she was one of the 2 first Native Americans to join the Congress, which is great. But here's identity politics rearing its bad head, where that's what they really emphasize. Like they were literally saying, why are you voting for the first Native American or one of the first Native Americans? Well, this is why, because he was the progressive. He was a white guy, which is not popular nowadays, but he was a progressive. He would have been the one fighting for universal basic income during COVID, for Medicare for All during COVID. He would have been a strong voice with AOC, with Jamal Bowman, who's coming in hopefully, well, definitely in the next cycle. So we got to start putting identity politics to the side and really look at the issues and look at the policy.
So for me, my candidate, I'm going to switch it up. I was thinking of somebody else, but I don't want to send them bad energy through the universe. So I'm going to change my candidate to Tulsi Gabbard. And I'm going to talk more about Gabbard because if you look at policy, a perfect, like if you wanted to create a candidate that would be perfect to take the country, it would be Tulsi Gabbard. She checks all the boxes. She's a veteran. She's a woman. She's well educated. She's progressive in policies. If you want to look at her policies and say, well, maybe she's for certain wars but not others, in that case, she becomes more of like a global centrist versus the centrists in this country that are conservatives. So if you look at somebody that really has potential, she attracted a lot of reasonable right-wing folks and a lot of independents and a lot of progressives. And the attacks that people have levied against her pretty much don't stand. She had the whole media against her throughout this whole campaign trying not to give her shine. If she would have just got one of the boosts that maybe Kamala Harris got or Amy Klobuchar got like 5 boosts or Pete Buttigieg got a couple boosts, if she would have got 1 or 2 of those boosts, she definitely could have been in the conversation making noise, but they just kept her out of it. They called her an Assad apologist, Assad toady, all these things that are pretty baseless. And
hold on, don't shrug off things like
this is not a debate now. This is my time. So, so all of these things, she didn't get any shine. And then as soon as she drops out because of COVID, she wanted to stay in. She drops out because of the pandemic and endorses Biden, which is the quote unquote right thing to do. I disagree with that, but she endorses him. Everyone's fawning over Tulsi. Look at her. She's so graceful. She's so this. Look at it. All the stuff that they just said about her, you could tell is disingenuous. It was disingenuous. They were making disingenuous arguments. And then as soon as she toes the party line and does what they think is the right thing, they're going to fawn over her and applaud and forget about everything else. Versus when you look at somebody like Bernie got an endorsement from Joe Rogan, and it was, how could you dare accept that endorsement? So if you hold that same standard, when Tulsi endorsed Joe Biden, they should have been like, oh, how could you accept her endorsement because she's so terrible? But she's not terrible. She's a very reasonable, awesome politician. She's still an active servicewoman and a member of, I mean, it's like if you put in a lab to come out with a perfect candidate, you would get Tulsi Gabbard.
Okay, hold up, Gabe. The question was who lost, you which one? You trying to tell me that you rather she have won over Bernie? Is that what you're saying?
Over Biden?
We got instructions on this question specifically not to say Bernie, so I had to switch it up to her. I voted for Biden. I voted for Bernie in the primary. But if you ask me who am I sad that lost, I'm sad that she lost. You know, in hindsight, Bernie, again, he just let him beat up on him. And as much as I loved his policies, he couldn't defend them. We talked about that last time.
Yeah.
So.
But he is more progressive than Tulsi.
Yes.
Let's move on to the next one. How can the progressive movement build enough grassroots strength to potentially push Joe Biden to sign a Medicare for All bill?
I'm going to start by saying Joe Biden has always been perfectly at the center of the Democratic Party for his entire political career. He's never been the Joe. No, hold on. He's never been as bad as Joe Manchin or, you know, those red state Democrats that are really Democrats. He's never been on that level. And yes, he's never been progressive in his entire life. He's never even thought about being progressive. But like a pattern that does follow through is that he does what is brought before him. So I think in a world where Medicare for All does pass both chambers of Congress and gets put on his desk as president, I don't think he's going to just say, nah, and like throw it away, because to get there, it needs the support of the Democratic Party. And to have the support of the Democratic Party should be enough to convince him to support that as well.
You're saying he's a liar then, because he straight out said from his own mouth he would reject that bill if it came to his desk.
And I've asked other candidates this kind of question, veto question. Let's flash forward. Your president, Bernie Sanders, is still active in the Senate. He manages to get Medicare for All through the Senate in some compromised version, the Elizabeth Warren version or other version. It comes to your desk. Do you veto it?
I would veto anything that delays providing the security and the certainty of health care being available now. If they got that through and by some miracle, and there was an epiphany that occurred, and some miracle occurred that said, okay, it's passed, then you got to look at the cost. I want to know, how did they find the $35 trillion? What is that doing? Is it going to significantly raise taxes on the middle class, which it will? What's going to happen?
So are you saying that he's a good centrist and then also calling him a liar at the same time?
This is the problem. This is the problem.
Do you guys not call Joe Biden a liar on like regular points?
This is the problem. This is the problem with established Democrats. They come in and they say things like this.
Show that Americans want both the public option and Medicare for All.
They want both.
I think whatever happens is going to be steps, and then ultimately, I think even Biden wants to get to Medicare for All. Ultimately,
eventually,
it's like Joe Biden is like, he clearly said, we could put up the clip where he says, if Medicare for All comes to my desk, I veto it.
I think that we have to be able to put pressure on Joe Biden. So the first thing to do that is we have to elect more progressives. So we got Jamal Bowman coming into office. We have various other people who have won their primaries that hopefully in November they're going to win and join the squad. So we're going to have the squad. We're going to have Squad 2.0, and then we're going to have the Avengers squad when they both combine, and hopefully they're going to be able to wreak some havoc and finally have I don't want to call them a Justice Democrats caucus, but like the progressive caucus can be considered a joke at times. They have so many people, but there's even some members of the progressive caucus and the New Democrats. Like, how are you part of both caucuses? So I can't even really count on the progressive caucus to have a voice, because they haven't been having a voice so far. So we need to establish a new caucus that can hold their vote and put pressure on the Biden administration. So I think that's one way.
The other one is just primary, man. You just got to primary everybody. No sacred cows, man. Everybody can get it.
Yeah,
pretty much, man. That's as simple as it goes.
So I'm wondering, let's say we had a Nina Turner running for 2024. Like, when should she jump in?
Now.
Right now.
Just do it now. Listen, we have to start. I always go back to this point. Our progressive movement needs to be stronger. We need to go and say, this is what we're going to do. If you're not on board, we're going to go this way. We know, like, we have the people, right? We have the people. Yeah, maybe we don't have 50%, maybe we don't have, but our movement is strong. And we need to stop going into, when we get into Congress, they're like, oh, mama beer, mama this, what that. No, we need to go in there. AOC have shown, people show by 70% that they behind AOC. AOC needs to go in there, stop playing nice, and obviously not go crazy and stuff, but we need to go and have them take us. And as we continue to do primary, and we continue to say, and stop giving our vote. Stop saying like, oh, I'm just going to go vote for Biden because Trump is worse. Like, don't sell out our vote. Tell them like, we want Joe Biden to tell us what policy he agrees with. And
yeah, let me jump in here real quick. So what if I want to play devil's advocate to people who would say it's too early to jump in? Because when you jump in so early, you're going to give the media, who's no, fan of progressives, enough time to, quote unquote, cancel you or come up with a scandal against you, to drag your name through the mud. You're going to be able, the opposition is going to be able to do opposition research on you, giving them a lot of time. What do you say to that criticism?
They already canceled them. The media already, Nina's canceled, Bree is canceled. Like anyone that's like, that hasn't fallen in line and endorsed Joe Biden, they already canceled them. So at the end of the day, what do we have to lose, right? All we have to start is building our movement now and know that the stronger we get, the better chance we got in 2024.
Yeah, one reason for, or a case for going early is Bernie himself. We could bring him up a little bit. But basically, one of the reasons why he didn't have a better showing in 2016 was because of name recognition. He wasn't that well known nationally. And Tina, she's well known in progressive circles, but she's not that well known nationally. And I think going early will help her get that name recognition.
Yeah, and on top of that, just piggybacking off of both of the other 2 points, it kind of gets the bad taste out of your mouth at the beginning, like if they just find out about you at the end, and then right, put 8 months before the election, they find out, oh, whatever, this person did XYZ, then that's going to sway a lot heavier than if it's right up front, 4 years early. Then everyone can say, yeah, we already knew that. That doesn't matter. We still support this candidate.
Good point. All right, Gabe, go ahead.
To add that I disagree with the strategy of moving Joe Biden. I think you can't, in many cases, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And in this case, he's shown who he is over decades of public service. If you go back to even Obama, where he had an overwhelming mandate by the voters to institute change, he came in and negotiated with the Republicans instead of doing what his voters wanted. And this time, I think that if we go in and vote for Joe Biden overwhelmingly and he feels like he has some sort of mandate, it's not going to be a mandate for progressives. It's going to be a mandate that his message is the winning message. And in turn, he needs to be the most centrist, the most conservative that he can be. So I think that it's a fool's errand to try to repeat the mistakes of the past and think that they're going to turn out with something different.
That's why we need more progressives, because as president, he cannot sign what doesn't come to his desk. So the people that are making the laws have to bring him something progressive, and then it's up to him whether he wants to veto it or not. But that's why we need more people coming into the House and the Senate that have more progressive views. So when the laws do come in that it's his job to sign, they reflect our policies.
Gabe, I want to ask you a quick question. I just put up a clip a day or two ago.
We shouldn't be talking necessarily about Medicare for all, because I just don't think it's going to happen in the United States. Would it be good? Yeah, I think it'd be great, but it's not going to happen. What about Medicare for children? 0 to 18, say. It would be dirt cheap because kids are really, really healthy. It would sow the next generation. It would help us in education. It would help parents. It seems to me it's a no-brainer. So I think we can fix the U.S. system. It won't be as good as the European system. It just won't.
Medicare 0 to 18. What would you consider that a win? If let's say the Medicare, he wants to do 60 and up. So 60 and up, bringing the age down from 65 to 60. But this person that I'm going to show the clip of, he was advocating to at least cover the children, the kids. So from 0 to 18, would you consider that a win if we could get that passed under Joe Biden?
You're not already covered. If you're like a single mom, you can get Medicaid and things like that up to 18. So I think that's less of an issue. I think what we should focus on is that Hillary Clinton in 2016 wanted the Medicare age to go down to, 50 or 55? And now Biden wants to take it down to less. He wants to take it down to 60 or something ridiculous. But we've gotten worse in policies than even under Hillary's campaign, where she was proposing more progressive things than Biden. So yeah, I can't support Biden. I won't unless he gives me something to vote for. I'm not going to just blindly support him because I'm not going to keep making the mistakes of the past that happened repeatedly. Now, I think that we should get more progressives in Congress and in state and local, but I'm not going to support Biden to come in and potentially continue to put the country back, albeit at a slower pace of regression than Trump, because Trump is atrocious. He's still not going to move us forward in any way.
What would he have to do? You said directly, not until he gives me something, or not unless he gives me something.
Give me something. What are the top progressive policies? Free, not free college. Free is a bad word. It is taxpayer-funded college. So right now we fund K through 12. We need to fund all the way to 16th grade or trade school. It's a policy that's shown to be an investment in the community that returns 7 to 1. If you look at the GI Bill. So based off of that investment into our people, it only costs $60 billion per year. It's like nothing. It's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. We just raised our military budget by about that much. He gives me that.
It's less than 10% of the military budget, by the way. Yeah.
Raise the minimum wage. Say that you're going to raise the minimum wage to a wage tied to inflation, where the last minimum wage raise nationally we got was under Bush. So much for our progressive champion Obama. Is like the minimum wage is a joke. So give me something there. Give me, of course, Medicare for All. Give me something like a Green New Deal. Give me something. But you can't tell me you're gonna just have to vote for me and like it, and I'm not gonna give you anything that you like. In fact, I'm gonna give you several things that you don't like. Can't buy it. Sorry.
You know how you really get Biden to move to the left? Just get Obama on board, because we know Obama is running everything in the background. So,
and that's not happening. That's not happening.
So we knew that from for the 8 years that he was there, he didn't do anything. So we know it's not happening. Obama's running the show. Everybody that knows politics, everybody knows that this is going to be another Obama administration. But the thing is, going back, is in 2024, we have to primary. If Biden wins, we have to primary him.
If Biden wins, he's not going to rerun. He already said he's pretty
sure. What happened to Bloomberg's promise to pay for Democratic operatives until November?
He lost. He's a sore loser. That's why.
What he gave you 2 big ring fingers. Like that to you.
You know what happened? This is what happened when you let a Republican run on a Democratic party. And that just shows that we don't really have 2 parties. Just a Republican Party, and then there's Democrats that are Republicans. We just did a D next to them. That's what happened. It's billionaires. They give you all the promise, and then they're like, oh, you know what? Let me just donate the $18 million to Biden campaign instead, and then we'll figure out how I get it back later.
I get it. Yeah, my thing about this real quick is how quiet the media is about this. Like, if this was somebody on the left who promised, hey, I'm going to give all these jobs, all these operatives. Matter of fact, I'm going to give it to whoever is the nominee. So that's actually some tangible assets right there that Biden, well, the way things are going right now, Biden doesn't really need it. But it doesn't hurt to have a whole bunch of people on the ground, a whole bunch of money in all the states, a whole bunch of operatives getting out the vote, especially with COVID going on. And it's just crickets in the media right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but we all knew what his campaign was about, right? Look at when he jumped in. He jumped in when people were afraid that Biden wasn't gonna win the primary, that Bernie was gonna run off with it. So he jumps in with his $1 billion. He only stayed in the campaign for 104 days, spent about $1 billion in 104 days, and then as soon as Obama asked him to leave, he's out. So we all knew that this was just a vanity campaign. This was just a farce to try to keep Bernie from getting the nomination. And so any promises he made during that time, I mean, they're empty, whether it's to his campaign staff or to anyone else. They were just empty to try to ensure that Bernie did not get that nomination.
And let's add the extra impact of those lost jobs. Imagine if you're working on another campaign. I know many people that were on one campaign and actually went to his campaign for that security. And then now during a global pandemic, during historic job loss in our country, you're going to just having the money to continue paying those people and making the promise and then cutting that off is disgusting. It is America in one microcosm example. If you want to just understand America, look at the Bloomberg campaign. It's something run by billionaires and
good point.
Workers, and you're gonna like what we have, and that's it.
Good point.
Agreed. I mean, I even read a quote from Chuck Rocha how basically, he was stealing, Bloomberg was stealing people even from Bernie's campaign. People are literally saying, I have to leave the campaign because Bloomberg is promising so much money to me, but I'm still going to vote for Bernie. I'm still going to have my whole family vote for Bernie, but I have to do this for my family. And then look at how he just squashes them in the end.
Why you don't vote? It's why you don't vote for Republicans and why you don't trust Republicans.
Let me ask this question. How many of you guys are relieved that Biden is the nominee instead of Bloomberg?
Oh, I'll say it. I'm relieved. Bloomberg is disingenuous throughout. No one's happy about a Biden nomination. Let's be real. Biden was everyone's candidate, but Bloomberg was vicious. I don't believe he ran out of vanity. I believe he ran out of sheer narcissism, believing that he was put by God on this earth to be president, and he paid $1 million to win American Samoa. That's all I got.
To quote our favorite Nina Turner, maybe if Biden is a half bowl of dog, you know what, then Bloomberg is just the same version but from the cat. I don't know. But
I would just say that, the difference between Biden and Bloomberg is just $54 billion. Aside from pick a choice. It's not really that much.
This question specifically that you asked was a sense of relief. I don't feel relief. I feel tremendous anxiety about this election, about the next 4 years, regardless of who's president. Because one, Biden is probably the worst candidate to put against Trump. If it wasn't for the global pandemic, he likely would be losing by a tremendous amount, and not because of his response on the pandemic, but because of his ability to disappear and let Trump just fumble everything. Biden's not out there. Imagine a Biden having to tour the country, having to do multiple speeches per day.
Oh my God.
The limited speeches he had before, the number of gaffes, the number of slipped racism, the number of slipped misogyny, the children's hair sniff. Like if it wasn't for the pandemic and him being able to hide in his basement, he probably would lose to Trump. But even that, I don't even count him out. The Democrats are very good at losing, so I don't count it out that they're able to lose at the last minute and then blame Bernie. So.
All right, for our fantasy political campaign section, who would you like to recruit for higher office? So I'm going to go to Izzy first.
Okay, so I picked my man Bill Nye, right? So first of all, he's very much in the spotlight in terms of his policies, especially when it comes to climate change. And I really feel like we don't have enough scientists. We don't have enough scientists in Congress. We don't have enough scientists in politics in general. And it's part of the reason why we as a country are a disaster when it comes to science, when it comes to climate change, when it comes to even just something as simple as critical thinking. We are run by a country of just emotional politicians. And we don't even have, half of our politicians don't even believe in science. I mean, that's how bad we are right now. So, as well-spoken as Bill Nye is, as he's on the forefront of every, climate change is by far the biggest risk that we face as a species, not even just as a country, but as a species. And he's on the forefront of that fight. So I would love to see him run for political office one day.
So what if, do you know anything about his other policies, or is it mainly because he's a scientist? Do you think, I'm trying to think of any flaws. Like if I was thinking, is this guy really progressive? Are you worried that he might not be for Medicare for All or anything like that?
I'm not. I haven't ever heard him speak on this directly, but anything I have ever heard him say has been nothing but compassion and just logic and reason. And when you put all those things together, you get progressive policies. So I don't really doubt that he would be for the policies that we're all for as well.
Yeah, if he's not there, he could probably be swayed with logic.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gabe, you go next, and then I'm gonna go to Felipe.
There's I think my politician that I would love to see is somebody who has been a politician before, is Jesse Ventura. I wish he would have run in this race. And the interviews that he's done, he actually has a personal situation in his family that he can't run because somebody is sick and he needs his health care to pay for those people. Another reason why we need Medicare for All, where healthcare should stay in a job.
Exactly.
But he is, again, if you wanted to throw, he's probably not as perfect as Tulsi. If you wanted to create him in a lab, he's more of a hippie, but he also is a Navy SEAL. So he's a veteran that served. He is someone that has been he's progressive, but he's not, you know, Bernie. He has some. He's a Second Amendment progressive person, so he's pro Second Amendment while also being progressive on many other policies. So I think he's somebody that can be reasoned with. I think he's somebody who's charismatic. If you needed somebody to take down Trump in a debate, he's somebody that could do it with his eyes closed and embarrass him. Somebody that doesn't have a bad record of voting that would haunt him, and he's proven that he can lead at the governor level, which is usually a requirement for president. So, big Jesse fan, and of course they'll attack him for being on RT America, but he was on MSNBC before that. And what happened when he came out against the regime change wars? They paid him his contract, but they said he couldn't be on air because they didn't want him having an anti-war sentiment on the media. So rather than either fire him, to keep him off the air anywhere else, they paid his contract all the way through
for 3 years
off the air. So it's one of those things where you know that's the kind of guy I like. I like somebody that's not afraid to speak out.
Yeah. I'm definitely a Jesse Ventura fan, and one thing I like about him is he's so good with messaging. Like, he's the anti-Bernie in that sense. Bernie would try to tell you in paragraphs how Medicare for All is good, and Jesse Ventura, I don't know how he does it, but he knows how to boil everything down to simple sound bites, and he would have been – I really think that, you know, the Green Party, he was trying to get on to that ticket, and I'm not saying it would have been a guarantee, but if – Jesse Ventura could have gotten into the debates, I think we would have seen a whole different political climate than what we have right now. So I'm going to move on.
Two more things on Jesse. He's very, very, very pro-union. You know, he was leading the fight to unionize. He was formerly a wrestler in WWF back in the day. He was leading the charge to unionize them, and then ultimately he became part of a union with the Screen Actors Guild. And also marijuana legalization. He's unapologetically in favor of marijuana legalization and decriminalization throughout the country federally. So,
yeah, Felipe.
All right. This is gonna sound kind of whack, but I think LeBron James should actually run for Ohio senator in 2028. In the past just couple years, he has donated a lot to charities and whatnot. But more importantly, he's taken an active stance in African American voting rights, both even in Florida. Down here with all of the Supreme Court laws surrounding the returning of votes to felons, he has been helping to pay those fees with a voting rights group that I think he founded or co-founded, but I might be wrong on that. And I think, so I think moving forward, if he builds off of this energy, he would be great for the state of Ohio, and he should be revered there. I'm surprised they don't have an actual statue of him there. You know.
All right, I gotta push back a little bit. I've seen too many people agreeing with this. I don't know this guy's politics. I mean, he endorsed Hillary Clinton, which is like the popular thing to do probably for any celebrity. Let's be real. If you don't endorse Hillary, you know, you would be ostracized or whatever in celebrity circles. But I don't like. I like people who almost borderline being radical. Like, I understand everybody can't be a radical, but I want to see you take a stand that's not popular, like with anything. You know, everything that he's done, even with China, when they had the issue with China, he went along with his pockets than to go along and use that situation to talk about freedom of speech and to speak out against the China regime. So I know you guys was shaking your head. Yes, I'm not impressed.
Hey, listen, Case. Not everybody could be Tulsi, okay?
Or Bernie or Nina. I like Nina. Let's go with Nina. We need some Ninas.
Yeah. Well, that was my person. You stole him. You stole my person. You know, we talked about her already, but you know. Yeah.
Go ahead, Carlito.
Yeah, Nina was the person I would have chosen. You know, so we already spoke about her. We could just keep it moving, but we already know she's the truth.
So Carlito, how about a Nina LeBron ticket?
Ohio ticket.
We'll see. We'll see. All right.
Senator. Yeah.
Well, you know, for me, like, you know, he's gonna come as a surprise. Like, he's not progressive, but someone that I've been following and seeing is Mark Cuban. Like, Mark Cuban, I've been listening to him, and one thing I like about him, he keep it 100. He tells you, like, you know, he will say, hey, I don't think Medicare for All will work, but this is what I would do. peers, like you will go based on your income, and based on this is how much you pay. You will pay 0, and after you pay 1%, whatever percent it is of that, you don't pay anything else. He talks about getting rid of the buybacks. He's getting rid of the CEOs buying stocks and saying, oh, well,
that's important.
You know, someone in the company, they get share of the company too. So the janitor makes $30,000. When others be payout go out, then that janitor gets 30,000 shares. Or, you know, so there are things that he talks about. Obviously, everyone, you know, he's not as progressive as I would like. But there's a policies that he talks about that I'd be like, okay, that's someone that if I had Trump, Biden, Cuban, I would definitely get behind Cuban just because he just keeps it 100. You know, I like politicians that if you're going to tell me, hey, Medicare for all doesn't work, just tell me and be like, but maybe this plan, my plan that I have will work, and show me how it will work. So Mark Cuban will be someone that if I had those two choices, I would love to just get behind.
I got my Bernie side eye on Mark Cuban, but I'll tell you this much.
He's not perfect. You know, he's not perfect. Like nobody perfect, right? I'm just saying that if we had a choice of Biden, Trump, or Cuban, I would pick Cuban.
Let me put it this way. If it's between Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke, I would want Mark Cuban definitely as senator. So I'll give you that one.
Yeah, agree.
All right, let's move on. So here's our running segment, the Think Tank Policy Discussion. And this is another one from yours truly. I'm going to bring up a police policy. All right, so listen to this. Instead of using taxpayer money to pay out police abuse settlements, how about we use the offending police department, use their pension fund, so that when they abuse somebody, when they kill an unarmed black man or unarmed anybody, and they have to settle or have an agreement, instead of using taxpayer money, basically they can pay out of their pension. I personally think you will see a huge decrease in unarmed people getting shot by police, and there's going to be a huge change in culture. What do you guys think?
100% agree.
There's some disagreement, so I want to go to the disagreement right now.
Yeah, I kind of disagree. On the surface, you think, well, yeah, that will force other cops to hold the bad apples accountable, but sometimes all the time you can't control everybody. So if somebody does something like that, if a cop kills an unarmed person, I don't want my pension to be affected by him. So for that reason, I disagree. Now, if it was more like his own personal pension he would lose, or some other funding mechanism that we could think about, definitely, but not directly tying it to another officer's pension that had nothing to do with it.
But just like how you do with billionaires, right? How do you affect change? You go to people's pocket.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to 0%, but I'll guarantee you the percentage go down because now you're messing with people's money.
Yeah.
What I'm saying. So, right, we're never going to get to a point that's going to be like completely stopped. But now if I'm a cop and I see the bad apple, I'm going to be like, hey, you gotta chill because you're messing with my money. And it's going to affect my money. So we need to bring that down. So now it's just the taxpayer money. They really don't lose anything. They get away with it. There's nothing to lose.
All right. So I know we got an alternative policy. So I'm going to go to Felipe.
First, let me explain a little bit. Pensions work by the company investing money in somewhat aggressive investment plans to build up to the amount that they're going to owe their employee in the future once they retire. To take money out of a pension plan way early would kneecap that for everyone else. Plus, you'd find the fees and the damages taken from retiring your investments early would just kneecap the rest of the pension, and that would essentially make it impossible to meet the obligations of your pension to your client, to your employee. But I think the most obvious way to do it is treat them like doctors. Give them a malpractice liability. A malpractice insurance comes out of their paycheck every month. They can choose the liability on that. Get rid of qualified immunity because it's stupid.
Yeah.
And once the malpractice is committed, obviously they picked their level of malpractice liability insurance. They pay the difference. That way, it hurts the specific cop. They pay for it out of their paycheck. You can even include that in the paycheck, like Social Security. Just cut that off a couple percent to malpractice liability, and there you go.
That's interesting.
It should also be like with the car insurance. If you have an accident, your rate goes up tremendously.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Sorry if I cut you off, but
no problem.
But if we think about that though, then so when that rate goes up, who's paying for it? Is
that
it
person
themselves?
But the specific
who pays his salary
out of their paycheck.
Yeah, but who pays that paycheck salary?
They're just gonna say we're gonna increase their overtime hour, and they're gonna work more overtime.
So I mean, I like having the insurance plan. Like I think it makes a lot of sense, but I think it takes too much onus off of the cops themselves. And then we have to remember that we pay their salaries. So if all of a sudden their stuff starts getting taken out of their salary or whatever, or their insurance rates go up, what's going to happen? The police department is just going to ask for more money to cover those additional expenses in the future.
No, I'm saying don't charge it to the police department. Charge it to each individual police officer. Have them get their own policy so that it doesn't affect the precinct as a whole. Whereas, so if that specific cop gets sued, the money comes out of his bank account after the liability insurance is used up. Obviously, his pay should stay about the same, if maybe go up 5% to cover the change in liability insurance. I don't support that. But
so let me throw this in, because I hear Izzy's point and I hear your point. So let me throw something in here real quick. So let's play this out. What if you do it to the individual police officers, right? And then if a police officer does something wrong, their liability goes up. And if they do it again, it goes up. Every time they do something wrong, they can literally price themselves out of being in the police department and being a police officer, which is interesting because that's what we want anyway. We want people who keep violating their rights as a police officer or violating other people's rights to get them priced out of the market. Now, I hear Izzy's point, because if the captain or whoever, the police union boss or whatever says, hey, we're going to just keep paying you out. Don't worry about it. Every time your insurance goes up, we'll pay your insurance. Then you might have a issue. But now if you have a police department full of people who you as the police union have to keep paying their insurance bill, you're going to be disincentivized to pay that bill. So this is an interesting topic. I think we might have something here. What do you think, Izzy?
Yeah, I think I misunderstood Felipe's original point. If the insurance policy is direct for that particular employee and every single employee has to maintain their own insurance policy independently, then yes, you will be able to hit them in their own pockets. It still, unfortunately, doesn't, make sure that all police officers hold each other accountable the way your plan did, Case. But I do see Felipe's point that, if it's individually, then okay, at least you're not, it's not coming down to the taxpayer having to pay that eventually.
See, here we are, Case Study QB and the political junkies saving the world as usual. And when we run Gabe as a candidate, that's going to be his number one issue, or one of the issues. We got many coming his way. He's going to be really busy when he runs for office. But all right, so this is another episode of Case Study QB's Political Junkies. And you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. And we're going to leave you with this. What can make you a smarter, informed voter? Well, with that Colin Allred situation, I want to introduce you to opensecrets.org. This is a website where you can look at other candidates and see the amount of money they are being contributed. So check that out. And this is Case Study QB, where we are making you a smarter voter. Have a great one.